Ferguson's Mechanical Paradox Orrery. I built it about 7 or 10 years ago. It's looking a little worse for wear. It's been on the end of my bar collecting dust, and it's been picked up and shown and twirled and all kinds of stuff. So my wife just bought me a display case, so I'd really like to rebuild this right now and polish it all up and get it ready for that display case. And in the process, I'll give you a look at the homemade CNC machine I made. I did all the engraving with. And then I'll try to explain the mechanical paradox with the gears, and so that you understand how the paradox works. And then finally the setup of the gears, so that you can get this Orrery to do exactly what it is that Ferguson wanted it to do. So let's go ahead and get started on this rebuild. You can see here I broke the day-night indicator off of its arm there. I'll fix that later. I gotta undo this collar here on the base of the sun. Whoops, I already did it. Alright, let's get the needle nose and we'll pull these pins out of these pillars. And they're coming out awfully easy. I don't think I used a spring washer. There should have been a spring washer in there, I think. Yeah, no, these are coming out way too easy. There's no spring washer in there. Let's get these straight washers off. They've been on there for 10 years, so they're a little slow coming off. Alright, there's the day-night holder for the day-night thing. And let's get the sun off of there. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know the sun just screws on here, but I'm just not sure how the base of the sun comes out. Let's get this off of here and we'll take a look. Alright, so there's a little arm that's going off to the side holding it in. I think that little arm is all that's holding it. Let me just play around here with the base a bit. See, watch it slide. Yeah. Yeah, let's try the needle nose on that. Not going to get it by hand. Just got to be careful not to mess up the teak. That's varnished teak. Yeah, it's moving, just slowly. There, that ought to do it. Yeah, and there's that little arm that was holding it on. Alright, so now we should be able to take this off. There we go. Alright, so these gears are a slip fit with a set screw. Going to need a smaller Allen key though to get to them. So we'll take those out later. Yeah, everything seems okay though. And there's the idler gear. That's actually 3 gears I glued together. They're 39 tooth. There's the 39 tooth drive gear and the collar. Yeah, okay, a lot of those. Oh, this pin looks like it might come out. Their post rather. The posts I believe are in with Loctite. Yeah, I got to get those posts out too because I want to polish them. Yeah, I think that's more of a job for the press downstairs. And I'll take those off at the same time. Yeah, no, those are going to get pressed off. Let's pull the pin on the, this is the base of the sun, and everything rotates around that. So with the pin out, we should be able to get that off of there. There we go. there's a washer on top of that. And it looks like there's remnants of, that's pretty good. Coat of varnish will be alright on that. Now the calendar ring here, I put spray glue on it, 3M spray glue. It never held it. After about 5 years it kind of let go, so that's one of the things I've got to fix. So I don't think I'm going to pull that centerpiece out. I'll leave the centerpiece in there. I can varnish around that. I can get that glue off of there easy enough. A little lacquer thinner will take that off. There's that idler gear. Okay, I took the gears off the bottom. And that little pointer there, take that off. That points to the moon's apogee. So this is the moon's apogee ring coming off here. Okay, the next one is the lunar nodes, or the moon's orbit. They're kind of stacked together. And the gears are a press fit on there, so getting these tubes off is a little bit there. And there's the Earth with the ecliptic on it there, circling it. So that's all taken apart now, so that's good to go. Yeah, the handle just screws on. That's teak and brass. And we'll get the pointer off of there. Okay, let's go down and get those posts off of there. Yeah, I think I'll leave those ends, but the posts have to come off. Alright, I've sanded down the base, and now we're putting a little marine varnish on there. I think the marine varnish with the brass and the teak kind of give it a nautical look to it. Okay, I just stripped all the lacquer off of the brass parts. Lacquering brass is a rather an art form, and I just didn't like the way the lacquer aged on the parts. So this time I'm going to polish them, and I'll use W.R. Smith's polish, which I rather like. Alright, this is the buffer with the fine stitched wheel, tight stitched rather, and just cleaning it off now. We'll charge it up here in a second. Charge it up a little bit. Polish, soap. We've got about 5 or 6 pieces that need to be buffed. We always start on this one first. This is the Baldar buffer. It's only got the single, it's a loose 3-inch buff with a rouge on it, and it brings up the final polish. The Baldar is a much quieter machine, much more balanced. And there are the parts that we just buffed. Now the ring's too big for the ultrasonic. But we'll use this pan, and we'll take the lacquer off first with a soft bristle brush. Comes off quite nicely with the lacquer thinners. Flip it over now. We'll take the glue off. This is that 3M spray glue. Cleaned up quite nicely. Alright, so now we've got everything back up on the bench, and the parts that were buffed will now be polished. And these parts here, they had the lacquer on. The lacquer's been removed and they'll just be polished, they won't be buffed. I don't really want to take them apart, so I'm going to try polishing them by hand. Be a little difficult, but we'll give it a go and see what we get. We're going to be using W.R. Smith's polisher, and I use these little cork pieces put onto a piece of wood. Alright, we'll open it up here and put a little bit on a nice soft wipe. There we go, just apply a little bit on there. And then we'll get our applicator here, put the wooden applicator on there and cover it up. And now we'll just keep on doing that until it all turns black. And then you take the black off with with lighter fluid, with a clean wipe. And then buff it up again, maybe a little flour cornstarch on it. So that's basically the polishing thing, and that's going to replace the lacquer that I used last time. We're back down in the shop and use a little West System epoxy here, a little boat building epoxy. Going to epoxy the calendar ring on the base. But first I got to mix this epoxy up pretty well. I'll mix it for about 3 or 4 minutes. There we go. Now I'm using a serrated applicator here, and I'll slowly go around the ring, and you can see the serrated marks for the glue so that I get the right amount of glue on there. Alright, gotta put the cloth gloves on. I wear cloth gloves now. Let me put this down. I like the cloth rather than the latex because it does allow me to actually do a little bit of buffing with the fingertips. But from the minute I start buffing a piece of brass until the end polish is put on, I am always wearing cloth gloves to keep the natural oils of your hand off there so I don't end up with fingerprints on stuff. They etch in there pretty good. Alright, that's looking pretty good. There we go. Let's get the wood on there. I could clamp it, but I think I'm going to use these dive weights. They come in handy for this. Get them all in position. There we go. Now I'm putting the posts back in position and I'm using the green Loctite. And there's no stress on these posts at all. It just holds them into position. That's all we need. Okay, we're ready to put it back together. We'll start off by putting the pointer on. And we've got a washer put on there. And then there's a sleeve in the hole here. Fits on there like that. Alright. So the next thing that goes in here is a pin. And the pin goes in this way. And the purpose of the pin is to hold this on, but also to put this wheel on. And the wheel also has the brass bushing in the center. So that goes on there like that. And then our center wheel, this is a 39 tooth. This is another 39 tooth. It goes in there like that. And then these are the 3 wheels that'll go on here. But before we get into those wheels, let's go down into the cellar and give you an idea of what my CNC machine looked like and how the wheels were made. This is my Rockcliffe A-model fixed gantry CNC router. It's got a little laminate trimmer on here. The footprint is 12 by 11, and I'm running Mach 3 on there, and I'm controlling it with a keyboard down here, and you can see that everything's this is the y-axis. I put the fixed gantry on, holding it with a clamp there. And now we have the X and the Y-axis in place, and they're ready to go. There's the 4-channel Rockcliffe board that I use in 24 volts. And this is a pen or a scribe that I built. Now, right now I'm looking at the calendar ring, making it just take a look of it in cardboard. And this is a drag engraver. I found the plans for it online, and boy, it's been a really nice addition. And I'm engraving the calendar ring. Took 3 hours, but now I'm cutting it out with a router. Had to do a voiceover here because the router was so loud, but I'm making the 44 tooth gear now for a demonstration I'm about to give you. Now the Orrery uses 39, 37, and 44 tooth gears, but they all have to be the same diameter, so the pitch gets a little messed up, so you have to kind of fudge around with the pitch a little bit. And AutoCAD and this router really let me mess around with that and get it the way I wanted it, and it came out really nice in the end. Okay, I've added the handle on the front here. It just screws in there. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the mechanical paradox. This is a 39 tooth gear, and this is a 39 tooth gear. This gear is stationary, so as you turn the handle, it does not move. Okay, it stays stationary. This one here functions as an idler gear, which connects this gear with the gears over here, these 3 gears here. And the idler gear has 2 functions, the connection, and it also reverses the rotation. So when we put the idler gear in there, you'll see the rotation of this gear and that gear remain the same. And I've built a little tool to show it to you a little clearer. So let me move this out of the way, and we'll bring in the tool. Now you can see that I've put 3 39 tooth gears in here. Now when I turn the one here, the idler gear turns backwards, but in doing so, it keeps the 2 39 gears lined up together. So these 2 39s remain the same. So when we've completed a full circle, they're all across the top. Second full circle, still all straight across the top. And the third one, the same way. Now we'll change to a 37 tooth. Okay, now we got the 37 in there. So as we turn the first time around, the idler's moving the same. But the 37 has 2 less teeth, so it's actually moving ahead by 2. Trying it the second time around, now it's 4 ahead. And the third time, now it's 6 ahead. Seems to be moving in that direction. Okay, let's replace that 37 with the 44. So there we got the 44 in there. And our first time around, which has the 44, of course, has 5 extra teeth, so it falls back 5 on the first turn. On the second turn, now it's 10 teeth behind, and on the third turn, it's 15 teeth behind. And that's the 3 directions that Ferguson's talking about when he mentions his mechanical paradox Orrery. That's the mechanical paradox. Alright, I speeded this up a little bit. This is a pointer, and it points to the moon's apogee on the ecliptic ring around the Earth. And there's the platform for it. And one of the nice things about these gloves is I can do a little polishing with my thumb there. The second one, this is the lunar nodes, or the travel of the moon around the Earth. There's no actual moon in this Orrery. That's the path of the moon there. And this is the Earth with the ecliptic, or the signs of the zodiac, going around it. And it sits in the center there like that. Now each one of those platforms, there's 3 platforms. They're driven by 3 different gears. And of course, the whole idea of the paradox is they're each going in their own separate directions. And there's the first gear on there. And there's slip fit, and then there's a set screw on it. But we won't set the set screw at this point. We'll just get the slip fit in there. Make sure that we get a good rotation. There's the second gear, and it slides in there. And finally, the third gear. There we go. Whoops. There we go. Okie doke. Now we're at the base, and this is the 39 tooth gear that's going to be driving the whole thing. It's stationary in the center there. And there's the collar to hold it in its position. We'll lock that in. There we go. Everything good on that one. Now this is the idler gear. It's another 39 tooth gear, but it's thicker, so they can drive all 3 of the other gears at the same time. So now it's just simply lining the gears and the posts and everything up and sliding this top piece in here. That sounds really easy, but it's not. But let's see what we can do here. Alright, so everything's in the hole, so now I can get down low and look at the gears. And slide it in there. Just got to be careful. There's the first gear. Alright, so there's the second gear. And there we go, there's the third gear. Alright, so let's put some washers on here. And put the pins in to hold the plates in. Now this is the day-night crescent that goes over this, separates the day from the night. The front part being, of course, where the sun points in and creates the day. Now you just got to make sure that it spins nicely. Now we'll put in moon's apogee wire. And these will both be held by Loctite. Once I have them working the way I want them to work. A little bit of adjustment here. Alright, they seem to be doing okay. My Orrery is only 10 inches in diameter, and the original Orrery was 15. So it's a little bit smaller on the parts, especially on the engraving on the ecliptic and the lunar nodes. Here's the sun going in position. The Orrery's back together, and I wanted to point out some of the parts to you and take a look at them. This part here, that's what I've been referring to as the calendar ring. It's engraved with the days and the months of the year on the inside, and then the corresponding signs of the zodiac are inscribed to the outside. So at any given time you can look at the pointer and tell what day of the year you're in and also what sign of the zodiac you're in. The big ball here represents the sun, and of course the pointer coming off, it'll always point towards the center of the earth no matter how you rotate it, and that of course is the rays of the sun pointing at the earth. Now, this other piece up here, this is the day-night ring crescent. It goes across the earth like that, and it's a graphic representation of the way the sun is pointing, or any time that the earth has sun on it at any given time of the year. The earth here runs on this 39-tooth gear at the bottom. That's the first gear that we're going to calibrate. Around the earth on that plate, this is where the earth sits at its 23-degree tilt. There are 12 lines of longitude on it. There's the latitude of Capricorn and Cancer, and the Arctic circles are on there as well. Going around the earth, it's all part of this one platform here, is the ecliptic. The ecliptic ring is the apparent path of the sun throughout the year. The ring's engraved with corresponding signs of zodiac for those times of the year. Okay, let's look at the setup that's required for this ring here with the 39-tooth gear. Alright, let me show you how I set up my 39-tooth gear. The first thing I did was I pointed my pointer at June 21st, which is the winter solstice, or the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere. I loosened the set screw on the bottom gear so that now I can rotate the earth, and as you can see, I rotated the earth so that it's now leaning directly towards the rays of the sun. Then I tightened up the set screw, and now the 39-tooth gear is calibrated. Now, once you've done this, remember the gear here and the gear there are both 39s. They follow each other. So it will require no further calibration from this point on. It's probably the most powerful of the wheels in this Orrery. It shows the solstices, both the winter and the summer, and the equinoxes. It shows the length of the day at any given day of the year. And it shows the changes of the season as the tilt of the earth, as the earth rotates the sun. So that's the bottom wheel. The next one up is the 37-tooth gear. It's in the middle there, and it runs the nodes. This is the nodes here, and the nodes, you can see there are two posts for them. One's in the front, that one's over there. They show the both the north and the south nodes, and they represent the travel of the moon around the earth. There is no actual moon in this Orrery. That travel there is representation of the travel of the moon. Now the moon's cycle is 18.5 years in length. The nodes that travel, the cycle of the nodes is 18.5 years. And this 37-tooth gear has a deficit of about 41 days during that cycle, so it's pretty accurate. But in order to keep it accurate on a yearly thing, Ferguson does recommend that you go into the astronomical tables every January and recalibrate that wheel. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to recalibrate the middle wheel for the lunar nodes. Okay, setting up the retrograde notion of the lunar nodes. The nodes, this is the lunar nodes here, and they travel across when the sun's ray hits the the travel of the nodes, then it is a possibility of eclipse during that month. During a new moon, you could have a solar eclipse. During a full moon, you could have a lunar eclipse. Now, to set this up, I downloaded a calendar of astronomical events. I set the pointer to January 5th, and that was the day of the new moon going into the descending of the southern node. So I turned the ring I put it on January 5th, and then I turn the lunar ring into the descending or the southern node. Okay? And so that the pointer is pointing directly at the node, so there's a possibility of an eclipse. And then I tightened up the set screw, and I hope that when I turned it, I would be able to predict solar and lunar eclipses. So I found that on that day of the year, there were a possibility of 2 eclipses in July, on the 2nd and the 16th. So I rotated over, and sure enough, there we are in July, and we're right on the node again. So I figure that I've got that calibrated pretty good. Once again, it needs to be calibrated every year. It is the 37-tooth gear. Now the last one is our top gear here, and it's the 44-tooth gear, and it's hooked to the apogeal pointer here. This pointer here that points to the ecliptic circling the Earth. It has the moon's apogee has a period of 8.85 years, and Ferguson's gear has only a deficit of 20 days during that period. But there is a deficit, so he does say that you should probably recalibrate every January. So let's go ahead and look to see how you could do that. Okay, the 44-tooth gear shows the motion of the moon's apogee at any given time. So once again, I went into the calendar of astronomical events, and I found that on January 5th, it was in the first third of Capricorn. So I put it on January 5th, and then I locked down the thing so it wouldn't move, and I brought the geo pointer to where it was pointing into the first third part of Capricorn. My plate, or my ecliptic that goes around the Earth there, is very small because, once again, I told you mine's only 10 inches in diameter, so it's very hard to read. But as far as I know, it is set up correctly, and it should follow around. But once again, it's only good for that 1 year. You can only go between January and January, or you'll go into the next year. So let's go ahead on now, and we'll take a look at where the book that Ferguson wrote his explanation in, and I'll show you where you can download it. This is the title page from Ferguson's book, The Mechanical Exercises, written in 1774. It's got a lot of information in it about different gizmos that he's made, but the mechanical paradox Orrery is in there as well. And so if you're interested in the Orrery, let me tell you that you should probably download this picture. You will need the picture because he refers to the parts of the Orrery by the letter that you see. Each one of the parts has a letter next to it, and that's how he refers to it. So reading it without that drawing would be very difficult. There's a lot of other stuff in there, but if you're interested in looking at just Ferguson's mechanical paradox Orrery, at the end of this video I'll have a black screen with a table of contents. It'll tell you exactly where to go in the PDF to find the parts that deal with the mechanical paradox Orrery and save you a little bit of time. Well, it's time. Let's go ahead over to the put Ferguson's Orrery in his case. All right, there's Ferguson Orrery in its final resting place where it stays out there in its display cabinet. And right below it, that's a Copernicus Orrery that I built. And I etched all the glass and everything like that. And you turn the handle and the planets all go around. And now that Ferguson's been rebuilt, it does look to me like this one is going to need a little bit of tender loving care itself. So we'll see how this, what the response is to Fergie, and then maybe I'll take this one apart and show you how I built this one. And then of course down the bottom here, there's my sextant and my taffrail log to make up. Yeah, anybody that comes near this cabinet with me, if one word, and I got plenty of stories to tell. That ought to keep them busy. But I want to thank you guys for stopping by, and this was a little bit longer than what I wanted, but it's all locked up in the case now, and should keep it for another 10 years, no problems. Thanks for stopping by. Bye now.